Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo Podcast. This is your weekly dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Gemma, and joining me this week, I have my excellent friend, the one and only Kirk. Welcome back, Kirk.
It's good to be back. I think we should skip over me and just get right to how many days are left until the Switch 2 arrives.
I know. It's not
That's
many.
why we're here.
That's why we're here. It's not many. It's 17 days. 17 days until Switch 2. Now it's feeling close. Can I say we're in the end game or not yet?
Yeah. Yeah,
Or maybe
sure.
not yet. Maybe next week.
Maybe not
It's
yet. We'll see.
well, maybe when it's in single digits, but just over 2 weeks. So 3 more shows for us because it'll come out on a Thursday. Our show launches on a Monday. But we've got 3 more Mondays until this wonderful new system comes out. I'm loving all the I don't know if you're noticing this too, but the good vibes. I'm feeling people are excited online. I'm seeing much less negativity about it. I'm just feeling like, everyone's getting really, really pumped for it. Are you pumped for it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am. There's still the trepidation about is it actually going to
Mm.
arrive or are those things
Yeah.
going to get canceled? The
Yeah.
funny thing about it is I got just a mass email from Best Buy
Mm.
saying that they anticipate that some locations, I got my finger quotes up, some locations are going to have, and again with the finger quotes, available stock for those
Ooh,
who didn't pre-order.
right.
And you could still go in at midnight and you may be able to get one. And I thought, what
Wow.
a horrible thing to say.
Yes, yeah. I hope it's not a Black Friday situation where
Well,
everyone's
because all these people are going to be in line and they're going to get it. And yeah, they may have a couple extra, but some locations, so you don't know. And
Yeah.
if you're going to have to get there really early to be one of the people who's able to get the 3, 4, 10, I don't know,
Mm.
physical uh, boxes that are going to arrive that day. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to go camp out in front of Best Buy. I assume I'd have to get there at 10 a.m. for a midnight
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
chance.
That would be very difficult, I think. Yeah, and, like, so you're there for 12, 14 hours, whatever, and then you don't get one. So,
Yeah, and then they say, "Oh
yeah.
yeah, we didn't get any."
Yeah. I wonder if each local store
Aren't
would
you?
know that morning. Like if you called them up and said, "Hey, have you got any spares?" Would they know? And do you think, or they wouldn't tell you?
I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting.
Maybe I should have Sam hurry up and get a job at Best Buy
Yes,
so
yes.
that he's there and he can let me know, or
Yeah.
he could he could just grab one.
That would be handy.
And yeah, I know that's frowned upon, but I'm sure it happens all the time.
I'm sure it does. There's a quick little update on midnight launches here in Australia as well. There was an email during the week from EB Games saying we are doing midnight launches at certain stores. Two parts to that. Firstly, it's not the store that I pre-ordered from, so I can't attend because sadly I've chosen my closest store, which is a really small store, because I
Yeah.
thought I just want it for convenience. And I didn't know there'd be because I asked, remember months ago I asked, will there be a midnight launch? And they said, probably not. Anyway, they are doing it. The second part of that is the email said there's only 2 ways you can be a part of this, and that is either what do you call it? Trading in your Switch One, or you have to have EB Games has this special membership that you have to pay annually, and you get some special like trade-in bonuses and stuff. You have to have that special membership to attend the launch. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit. I do have this membership thing, and so I would be fine. But I'm like, that's a bit unfair. Anyway, they retracted that later during the week. So now you don't need to be a member or trade in a Switch. Whether that was a marketing ploy or they realized that was not a nice thing to do, I don't know.
I think I'm on their side on this one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you're a paid member, you should get some kind of benefits, and that's a nice
True,
one, right?
true.
And
Yeah, okay.
again, it's stopping the scalpers from just showing up and wanting to
Mm,
go get it. Unless they're members too. But
that's a good
I
point. Yeah,
yeah,
that is a good
I
point.
think I'd be fine with that. Sure.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's fine. I wasn't, like, heavily criticizing it, but I thought that was odd. But I mean, it's different here, I think. It's not like we have thousands of people turning up to Best Buy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. You did mention that they had available stock, weeks after the orders went available.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't know if that's still the case. I think they sold out of the Mario Kart bundle. I don't know about the standard Switch 2. They may still have some at some stores. Probably they do. But yeah, it seems like it's, selling out now a little bit more so. But yeah, interesting. Very interesting. So I thought I'd mention that. If you're in Australia, if you're listening in Australia, do let us know if you're attending one of those midnight launches. We also wanted to highlight some YouTube comments that we got during the week. Thank you so much to our listeners, and to these people who left a little note for us. So we had one from Ludi Yi, who was not happy with the overpriced Switch 2. No one wants to buy it, and they're going to wait for the Switch 2 emulators. So that's their opinion. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I get his point.
Hmm.
Nobody cares. Nobody wants to buy it. Eh,
Hmm.
well, that's not true.
Yeah.
It's sold out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But not everyone. Obviously, some people are still not feeling the vibe. So yeah, hopefully
Oh
that
yeah,
can
yeah.
settle down.
It's fair.
Yeah, it is fair. The next was from Person Waving 7720. I love that name. And this is such a great comment. Specifically, I think targeted for you, Kirk. Any Flash Gordon remake without Brian Blessed will be fundamentally flawed. So
Uh, God bless you, person waving. That is absolutely true.
yes.
It's the same with Max von Sydow. Max von Sydow, who played Ming the Merciless in that movie, was the single best villain casting in the history of cinema, and nobody could ever convince me otherwise.
Love that.
That includes James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader.
Ooh, that's a tough call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll strip to the waist and fight anyone who wants to take me on that.
Love that. And so regular listeners will know that, yes, Kirk is a Flash Gordon aficionado as well as Godzilla. So yeah, please let us know if you agree with these. We love hearing. And we have a regular Jose Rios who loves to comment on our episodes. Thank you so much, Jose. And it sounds like you're doing really well. You've got your Switch 2. You're very excited for day one, and you think it's going to do really well, which we agree with. And I've certainly seen a lot of chatter online, and I don't know how official it is, but analysts are predicting quite good sales, which is cool. And Jose also says that he tried out the Last Defense Academy game, which we've talked about a couple of times recently, that Kirk has reviewed and I've done the demo for. And he says it is unique. Currently enjoying it a lot with the unique cast of characters. So yes, and thanks again for a great episode. Thank you again for a great comment, Jose, and thanks to all our listeners every week. Anything you wanted to comment on that in terms of Last Defense Academy, Kirk?
I did read that it was the number one game in Japan. I think
Ooh.
2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
I mean, the competition is a bit slow right now, so that helped. And then I
Mm,
believe it completely fell out of the top 20, maybe the next week.
right.
But so yeah, it's people are playing it, and I continue to recommend it as an absolutely wonderful, unique
Yeah,
game.
unique is definitely the word for it. Yes. We have a lot of Switch 2 news, sorry, to cover this week. Lots of little interesting things popping up because, as I said, we're 17 days away. So there's all these little tidbits of information, and some of them come from the Nintendo Today app, actually, including this first piece of news. Are you looking at the Nintendo Today app? Do you have the Nintendo Today app, Kirk?
I do. I think I forgot that I had it. I don't have
Yeah.
notifications on, so I haven't checked it in a while.
Yeah, actually, I'm not getting notifications either, but it is on my home screen of my mobile, and it does have this cool little widget, which looks really neat and has little pictures. Um, Sometimes I click on it if it's something that I feel like clicking on. It is a cool little app, though. It's just very easy to. It doesn't take a lot of my time, I suppose, to look at something on the app. You know what I mean? Like it's not a drain.
Yeah.
But it also has really nice imagery and really interesting tidbits of information, such as the new Switch 2 operating system has some cool settings that they revealed about I guess, the battery. So they're talking about you can sort of optimize the battery by setting it to only charge to like 90%, for example. And I guess this is handy for people who keep it docked, which is me, I guess, most of the time. Maybe you as
Yeah.
well, I guess, Kirk.
Yes,
So
definitely.
yeah. And so this is the thing, I don't know, I have heard this before with phones that if you leave it charging, and even laptops, I guess, if you leave it with the charger in constantly, it isn't good for the battery life, right? Like it kind of over time, the battery doesn't last as long. You're aware of this situation?
Yeah, I had heard that. I never know which unit or which device it applies to. I
Mm.
have my iPad plugged in all the time. Um, but that's because the battery is not good to begin with. So
Right.
maybe I'm making it worse. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know either. My work laptop, for example, has a terrible battery life, which is not great to begin with, but because it's constantly plugged in, because it's a laptop, but I'm always at my desk, so it's always just charging. If I ever have to go somewhere and do a meeting off away from my desk, for example, it only lasts for like 2 hours. It's pretty it's pretty dismal. So I know that that doesn't help. Phones as well, I know they go down over time. And it's just I mean, it's good to have the option, more options is always a good thing. And I guess you can yeah, prolong the life of your Switch 2 battery by doing this. We don't know if it's gonna be a Switch 1 feature at some point, if they'll add it into that operating system in a future update. Maybe they can't. Oh, I don't see why they couldn't though. But speaking of batteries, it led me to, I guess, look into the battery life of the Switch 2 overall, which, I'd heard sort of anecdotally and I wanted to kind of confirm. It looks like the life of the battery is it's kind of fine, right? Like, it's not worse than the original Switch. So, looking at the numbers, it's like the original Switch was sort of 2.5 to 6.5 hours, and the Switch 2 is supposed to be 2 to 6.5 hours. Very, very similar. Um, it's obviously a bigger machine, much more powerful. I assume the battery is also more powerful, but that compensates, with or for the graphical prowess of this new device. Other Switch models fare a lot better, as you would expect, like the newer Switch models. I'm talking about the very, very original Switch, which is the one I have. The newer ones are 4.5 to 9 hours, which is a lot better. The OLED is the same, 4.5 to 9 hours, which is you have the OLED, right? That's your
Yeah.
choice system? Yeah. And then the Switch Lite is 3 to 7. So varies across the devices. It's in a similar range though. Do you think that's a decent amount, or how do you feel? Are you disappointed by 6.5 hours as a maximum? Depends what you're playing, I guess, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah, I'm not disappointed in it. Again, mainly because I almost always play docked, and when I
Yeah.
am playing it handheld, I'm certainly not playing it, where for 6.5 hours where I don't have the option to plug it in to
Mm.
charge. And I imagine it's the same with most people.
Mhm.
Almost anywhere you are, you're going to be able to plug in somewhere these days.
That's true. Yeah. Even at the
Um,
airport. Yeah, the airport has charging docks now. Some shopping centers even have them.
yeah,
Sure they yeah, which is cool.
I think the 2 hour is because, I mean, obviously it's much more powerful system, but also you have a lot more processor intensive games. So
Mhm.
I bet that drop from 2.5 to 2 was to handle things like Cyberpunk, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
where 6.5 hours is great for the what's that thing called that I'm not getting? I hate it so much I forgot the name. The tutorial manual game.
Oh, yeah. This welcome tour, yeah.
Yeah, you can play that for 6.5 hours.
Yes. Yes, most likely that would be a 6.5 hour, game. Like, it would last that long, I think. Yeah, so those lighter games, probably things like, you know, Mario's platforming adventures would be, better than, say, Mario Odyssey, which is more of a 3D graphical, experience.
Yep.
Yeah, so it varies across, I guess, yeah, games as well as devices. And as we probably expect, there'll be another version of the Switch 2 at some point. Like they did with the Switch, they have the OLED, the Lite, even an upgraded version of the Switch. So at some point in the next few years, there'll be a version 2 of the Switch 2, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, we could expect to see better battery life at that point. I mean, it's so funny with batteries because, yeah, I don't know, phones, for example, my current phone is really good. It lasts for 24 hours, basically, unless I'm doing something really intensive on it. But I know over time it's going to drop down and eventually it'll be like half a day. So as it gets older. Yeah. So if you just take care of it, this is one way to help take care of it, I guess, and make it last longer. If you have the option to make it stop at 90%, then yeah, cool. I don't know what this is. I don't want to sidetrack too much on batteries, but if you stop it at 90%, does it stop charging, and then when it drops to 89, does it bump it back up to 90% constantly? Or what is
Yeah,
it?
I had the same question, and you would think after all my years of covering Apple products for other sites that I would have a definitive answer to this, but I imagine the answer just keeps changing all the time, and I don't
Mm,
know how the Switch 2 handles that because I
yeah,
can't, I've got it docked all the time, so it's not constantly going to be charging itself. There's got to be a gate to shut charging off completely,
yeah,
but then how long is that off before it starts again, so that when I do pick it up out of the dock, it's at 100% ready to go.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yes, very interesting. There's a lot of news about, I guess, games as well, because we're all excited about the games coming out. And I don't know, Kirk, if you caught these creator voice series that they've been putting onto YouTube, Nintendo's YouTube channel. There's been some really good ones. Hades 2. There were, I think, Hogwarts had one, Hogwarts Legacy, and Borderlands 4 has just had one last week. And the devs talked about the Switch 2 and how powerful it is, which I thought was a really nice, I guess, sentiment from these developers. Excuse me, especially from this. Borderlands is a very popular game. I believe Borderlands 4 isn't out on any device yet, right? This is a new Borderlands game.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, and we don't have a release date for the Switch 2, but it is scheduled to launch later this year. But the developers were saying that the Switch 2 has been a joy to work with. It's very powerful. It's an incredible machine, very tight form factor. We love being on the bleeding edge with our graphics, and the experience that we're creating in the Nintendo Switch 2 makes all that possible. They're not fighting the system, other things like that that they say. So it's I mean, it's just nice to hear a Nintendo device being spoken about like that from a developer that's making something pretty, big and cool. So, did you have any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I like that quote about not fighting the system.
Mhm.
Because I think with the previous Switch and Nintendo hardware in general, there are developers that are able to really get a lot out of it.
Mhm.
For instance, like with Xenoblade Chronicles X, just looks and plays beautifully,
Mm.
but that takes a lot of work. And I think for a lot of developers, when it's so easy to do that on other systems, getting that to happen on the Switch, I bet is just a huge source of frustration. So it's great now that that won't be the case for many.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love that as well, and I mean, the Switch 1 has a lot of third-party support, but, hopefully the Switch 2 is gonna have even more. We're seeing things like, Street Fighter, for example, Street Fighter 6, Borderlands. We do have some Borderland ports on the Switch, but now getting it kind of, I guess, at the same time as the other consoles, or at least it'll be very close, if not on the same date. I think it's a September release for other consoles. Is that maybe something you've heard? Um, and it's, if Switch 2 is this year, then it's gonna be in the same kind of window at least, if not at the same time. Maybe it's depending on development, but yeah, it just means that I guess the Switch 2 can, if it can handle, these kinds of games, then players like myself who wouldn't normally have access to it, will be able to experience it as, I mean, I can if I got myself another console, but I just don't. I don't have another console. I'm not going to, because it's a lot of money, and, I'm happy with my Switch and Nintendo games in general. So, but it exposes people like me to more, I guess, more games really, which is a great thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, Other news includes, I guess, some more of these Switch 2 versions that we've been hearing about. We know that there are Nintendo's own Switch 2 versions, and we'll talk about that as well. But from a third party perspective, I thought this was really neat, and it seems to differ between each developer, I guess, a little bit. But Hogwarts Legacy, which I did mention in terms of the creator's voice, and go and watch those creator voice videos if you get a chance on YouTube, because they're really neat and they're quite short. I think they're only sort of 3 to 5 minutes. They're very easy to digest, but they're just really good. They give you a really good look at some of the games that are coming and some of the developers. And I always love seeing developers talk about the games. They're so enthusiastic. But in terms of Hogwarts Legacy, there is a Switch 2 version. We already knew that. But the cool news is that if you have the Switch 1 version, you can get the Switch 2 version. It's like an upgrade, and it's $10 extra, which I think is really nice. You don't have to double dip if you were a huge fan, because I know a lot of people are and probably went out and bought the Switch 1 version when it came out. Um, so I love that. Do you think that's, a good deal? Would you, if you had Switch 1 version, would you go and buy the second one for $10? Seems like a steal to me.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. If it's a game I'm continuing to play,
Mhm.
I would easily, pay 10, 15, depending on what we were getting, even up to $20 to be able to play it on the Switch too.
Yeah.
But that also depends on exactly what they're offering. If it's just like a graphics bump, maybe not.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It
but
seems
yeah,
like, yeah. Sorry.
I was just going to say it just depends on what the price is and what you get on the Switch 2 version.
True. Well, in terms of Hogwarts Legacy, a lot of it is to do with the visuals, and there's been some screenshots that show the difference, and that it does look remarkably better, which is nice. Also, faster loading times, which I think is a great thing. I do not like long loading times. at all. I always point them out in my reviews. So that's fine and great, and maybe that's something you wouldn't necessarily want to pay for, but they also are apparently making use of mouse controls, which is kind of cool. So that's almost like a new feature, which definitely helps if you were looking for something, I guess, a bigger upgrade. So yeah, do you think would that be worthy for you if it was a game you were interested in? Is that
Yeah,
enough?
well,
Yeah.
for $10, I would pay for just the graphics update.
Ah, okay, sure.
If
Yes.
they're charging more than that, if we're getting up to the $20 range, then I would need to see what else is coming along with that.
Yeah, okay, cool.
But yeah, it sounds like they're offering enough there to certainly justify $10 price. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think it's really neat. Unfortunately, I don't have the first version, so I'm thinking whether it was on sale recently, and I missed it, actually, so that would have been a good deal then to pick up the first one on sale and then get the second one for $10. It won't be $10 in Australia, it'll probably be 15 or 20, but in the US, $10 is a really good, deal, I think. And there are others that are following a similar suit, such as Rune Factory, which is one that you just brought to my attention before the show. So what's happening with that one?
Yes, Marvelous Exceed has announced that Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma for Switch 2 is going to be a $15 upgrade if you have already pre-ordered, because it's not out yet. If you've already pre-ordered the Switch version, or if you buy the Switch version for your Switch and then get a Switch 2, it's another $15 to bump that up.
Cool.
Um, so yeah, and I think that's fair. Now, I also learned that the Switch 2 version will be a physical game on card,
Oh,
according to
neat.
the website that I was
That's
at.
good.
For some reason, I was thinking that wasn't the case with this game, so I'm hoping I read that right. At Marvelous's X site or
Mm.
website.
Hmm.
The the funny thing though is there is no limited edition for the Switch 2. If you want to get the limited edition that I know a lot of people do, even if you have a Switch 2, you need to buy the Switch 1 version and then still pay the $15 upgrade to get the Switch 2 version.
Right.
So
What's
I
it?
think
Mm.
if you're paying $100 for a limited edition, I would hope that developers and publishers will just start throwing that Switch 2 upgrade into it as part of the limited edition package.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're already paying a lot. How much is the standard edition?
I don't know, but I do have the site up, or I did.
Yeah.
It's gone.
That's okay. Do we know when
Well,
it's coming out on Switch 1?
the if it's not June 5th, I know the Switch 2 version is a launch date game.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
They in the press release I got, they didn't say when the reason we have this is because we have a review code for the Switch 1 version.
Mhm.
They didn't say when the embargo lifts, so I don't know what the timing is of that.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'll pull it up on the Nintendo website here real quickly, and I'll let you know.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's interesting because, we're seeing this might be a unique experience for a certain period of time because at some point, developers may not support the Switch 1. Obviously, at the moment they are because there's definitely a crossover between obviously, at the moment, everyone has a Switch 1. No one's got a Switch 2. We're going to get Switch 2s. They're predicting 15,000,000, was it, for the first year?
Yep.
There's how many 100 and something million Switch 1 owners. So you're not gonna wanna lock them out if you don't have to. I guess there's a bit of work in making 2 versions. You have to make it more streamlined for Switch 1. The graphics are gonna take a hit. And then if you're really dedicating yourself to developing on Switch 2, that's a lot more work. So to have 2 versions, I think is and make people pay for it is fine. But yeah, $100 for this limited what is it called? Limited edition version?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd think maybe you'd get the extra upgrade for free as part of that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Although it all may be moot anyway, because I believe the limited edition may be sold out. So if you're
Oh,
listening to
right.
this and thinking
Yeah.
that plan, plus the website where they had it listed also at one point said we're not going to sell anymore to the US at this price because of tariff
Ah, okay.
issues,
Mhm.
which I think are no longer the case. Maybe they put that up um, before it sold out and then just didn't take it down. So they
Mhm.
were pulling it even before that.
Yeah.
The Switch version of Guardians of Azuma is $60. The
Mhm.
Switch 2 version is 70. And
Right.
here, the upgrade pack for Switch 2 is actually it's listed at $10.
Right.
But
Okay.
Marvelous's site says it's 15. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it does. It says
Oh wait, oh I
Australia. It's
see that. That's
Australian.
Australia. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It does
Yeah.
have the A there. Okay, $10 US. Gotcha.
Okay. Well, that's good. That seems to be
Yeah.
maybe the standard then. Because yeah, it says €10, £10, Australia 15. It doesn't have the US dollars on the side I'm looking at, which is interesting. And the upgrade pack. So of course you can play the Switch One version on your Switch Two anyway, right? We know
Yeah.
that
Yep.
it's backwards compatible. So you could, if you upgraded your console, you don't necessarily have to pay the $10 extra. But this upgrade pack, it does seem to have again mouse support, which could be cool, as well as obviously visual enhancements. Um, and the save data will carry over between versions as well. So if you did start your journey on the Switch 1 and then moved over to Switch 2, you could continue playing, I suppose, seamlessly. Yeah. So it's very interesting with all of these kind of games at this moment in time where it's kind of overlapping and what developers are going to do. I think, yeah, like we said, $10 is fair. 15 is pretty good for Australian too. So I'm hoping that would be the same for Hogwarts Legacy then. Just a little bump, $15. Like 20 is probably getting to be a little high for me, but yeah, no more than 20 I wouldn't want to see in Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of games don't even need it. I mean, that's something else too. Like, for instance, the 100 line, which we've talked about quite a bit
Mhm.
over the past couple weeks. I
Mm.
don't see how any kind of update would bring anything to that, any graphic enhancement. I don't know that I would do it for that game, whereas I would for, say, Xenoblade Chronicles or something that's a little more ornate, we'll say.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that kind of brings us to Nintendo's own list of Switch 2 upgrades. Xenoblade is not on that list. Is that a surprise to you? Do you think it should be, or do you think it will be in the future?
I
Or
don't
maybe
think so. I think it's so good looking as it is now, and since it's already an upgrade from the Wii U version, it's
yeah, true.
they've done their job. This
That's
is what
true.
you're getting. Be happy with it, and meantime, we'll work on the next game.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, no, I totally agree. I think there's no need for that at this point. And I mean, unless it was a free upgrade, but it's like you said, it's visually improved. I don't know whether games that just are made for the Switch One, excuse me, and don't have a specific Switch Two upgrade, do the Switch One versions perform better natively? It seems like maybe not. I kind of thought they would, but no.
Yeah, I would think they would too.
Yeah. But then why are
Yeah,
they putting out all these special upgrade packs then? Yeah,
well, because they may perform better but look the same. Like maybe
true. Mm,
your frame rates are enhanced. You may not be getting 60 frames a second,
mhm.
but you're not getting frame rate drops, for example.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, that's a really good point because this list of Nintendo games, for example, and it's a really relatively long list. We've got ARMS, Big Brain Academy, Captain Toad, even Game Builder Garage, which I've not even played. Even Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, which is cool. Pokemon, of course, we knew about that one. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Mario 3D World, Mario Odyssey. These are all, and then Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. These are all getting free upgrades for the Switch too. And I love that it's free. Yeah, so these aren't, I guess, big enough upgrades to warrant a special, one-off price. And I wouldn't want to see, 10 games all having a 10 or whatever dollar price tag attached to them, especially considering some of them are quite old, like ARMS is quite old now, right? Like that's been around a while. Even
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe has been around a while. So I love that they're free. One thing I did want to highlight, which caught my attention, is that, and we've talked about this sort of recently. You guys kind of forgot the Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. The update for that says that it's got optimized visuals for the Switch 2 and high resolution TVs for improved image quality, as well as HDR support. It doesn't mention frame rates, and at first I was like, "That's weird." Shouldn't it? Because there are some frame rate issues with that game, not hugely noticeable, but it's definitely there. Whereas Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, it mentions that specifically. It says frame rate improved for smoother movement on Nintendo Switch 2. There is an article that kind of questions this, and it's a bit of a speculation, but I think it's true in that Echoes of Wisdom might be trying to get to, and this is kind of what you were just alluding to, I think, trying to get to 60 frames per second, maybe, whatever it might be. And it can't on the Switch 1, and that's why it stutters. Nothing's changed in terms of the Switch 2 upgrade for that. It's just that the Switch 2 can make it run at that, desired frame rate. So the stuttering shouldn't be there. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's not really going to be better. It's just going to work the way it should
Yeah.
have from the start.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. So that's what I'm hoping as well. But the visuals will be nice, nicely optimized. I think it'll look really cool. I'm definitely going to give that one a go and see how it looks. I'm looking forward to just comparing some of these older games on the Switch 2 and see how they render. It does lead me to a random thought, I suppose, because I've told you before that I'm picking up my Switch 2 after I drop the kids at school, and you mentioned this weeks and weeks ago in terms of midnight launches and letting it run overnight to do the updates and to do whatever. Now I'm worried that my whole day is gonna be spent waiting for things to transfer from Switch 1 to Switch 2. Is that gonna take hours? Because
I can't imagine it's going to take hours. Honestly, looking back, I don't know if it was really that long when I had to do it
Mhm.
with the previous systems or if it just felt that way because I wanted to get going on it.
Yep.
And when you turn it on, it says, "Ah, we're grabbing a download. Just give us a second," and then you're watching that little bar move. So I can't remember how long it was, but I remember thinking at the time I should have done this last night.
Yeah. Mhm. But you weren't transferring from Switch 1 to Switch 2 at that time. There was just a new system with a download for,
Right.
like, operating system. But if I'm transferring all my data across, and I have a lot of data,
Well, I wonder if you have to do it all right away.
I don't know, I hope not. I would
Uh,
imagine maybe not. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a good question.
Mm,
I have launch day off work still. I don't know when my system is going to get here, but
mm.
yeah, depending on how long that takes, I can end up working the whole day before I'm even ready
Yeah.
to end up playing the game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want that situation where it gets to the afternoon and I'm like, I haven't even I haven't even had a chance to play Mario Kart yet. Yeah, and I like, do I then put that off until that night? But then is that gonna mess around with anything that I do that day in terms of save data or whatever? I don't know. I don't know. These are questions I don't know the answers to, and I maybe won't find out until June the 5th, but I certainly don't want to miss out. So,
It'd be even better if you could play while everything's transferring in the background, but I don't think the Switch is at that point.
yeah, I did think that too. It it seems like at the moment, is it when you download something from the eShop, you could play something while it's downloading, but only if it's not using online components, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's it. And I still also feel that it slows it down. Like I'll play
Mm.
something and come back. Goes that really all the further it got? Did I stop it by playing this? So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so any of these Switch 1 titles that are getting upgrades kinda catch your eye or make you think you wanna try them again?
no,
No? Okay.
honestly, I don't think the one that really kind of amused me was 51 worldwide games.
Yeah.
Like why? But then I see it's being updated for game chat, which makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. And if I had that game and I had the camera and sure
Mhm.
I'd get a system for my mom, be able to go on and play some games with her.
Yeah, that would be really nice, yeah. So, yeah, and some of them are that exactly, or part of it is adding game chat or game share as well. I think Big Brain Academy is an example of that. I don't know that the graphics are necessarily being updated, it sort of doesn't really mention that, it just says that game share support, so 4 people can play in party mode, and you can share locally or share online by game chat. So some of them are kind of those types of enhancements, some of them are visual and game share options, like Captain Toad, for example, is getting a bit of a bump in visuals as well as game share support. So 2 people can play all of the courses, which is neat. Yes, there's some cool things there. I'll put the link into our video so you can see them for yourselves on Nintendo's website. Anything else to add to that before we move on to some more news?
I don't think so, except that the list that we were looking at here, these aren't
Mm.
complete, right? Because what's the Super
Oh,
Mario,
yeah.
the game one, Mario Party?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's getting a massive update. I don't see that listed here.
No, well, these are free updates, I suppose, so I
Ah,
guess
you're right. That
they're
one. Okay,
separate.
so these are the ones that. Well, You know what? My confusion comes from the fact that I believe it's free to me because I'm an Online Plus subscriber.
Ah, yeah.
So in my head, they're all free
Yeah.
from Nintendo, but yeah,
Yes.
they're not.
Yes, so that's true, that's a good point. These ones are free updates, I believe you just need to have the game. So 51 worldwide games or ARMS or Big Brain Academy, whatever. Captain Toad, if you have those, you can update them for free, which is great. Other games like, I guess, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, if you have Switch Online, it's free. If not, and I don't know if Kirby falls into that category as well, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, because that has a Switch 2 edition that is not free, I don't believe, but I'm not sure what the price is or if it's free for online subscribers. I think that one is as well. I don't have the original. So for me, I would love to get the, Switch 2 edition outright because that's a game I missed and, I'm looking forward to playing it. It's got new levels as well. So things that have new content, there's a bit of a cost there. Um, yeah, there's kind of a few different categories, which can make it confusing, I think. I mean, if we're confused, imagine what, just mums and dads might be thinking who aren't kind of following this kind of stuff day in, day out like we are. I don't know. I hope it's not too stressful for people.
You know, one other thing to think about this too is like, say, I'm looking at games like Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening, games I've
Mhm.
completed. I have no
Mm.
intention of playing again. You could upgrade them and go through it just to see if the visual bump is nice.
Mhm.
But we're still wrestling with games that are going to take up an awful lot of space on the Switch 2, and they're key cards,
Mm.
so you're going to use a lot more storage.
Yeah.
Like, is it worth it to you? Would you play these games again, knowing that this download is going to take up more space on your hard drive and you're already
Mm.
done? So why bother?
That's a good question. I mean, I definitely want to play Tears of the Kingdom again, but I haven't finished it, so maybe that's not a good example. Same with Pokemon Violet. I didn't finish that one either. I spent a lot of time with it, but I didn't actually complete it. Will it be enough for me to want to do it again? I'm so tempted to do it because I really did like that game and I didn't mean to not finish it. I just got distracted with other things, as you do. I can see myself trying it and then again getting distracted by other things. So, especially when I've got Mario Kart World to play or other, other new things coming out for the Switch 2 that are going to take my time. Um, I think I'm interested, but I don't know that it'll be a big download, especially for something like, say, New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. I love that game. That's one of my most played games on the Switch. Haven't played it recently. I would say that I would love to play it again just because I love that game, and I don't think it's a huge download, that one, so that wouldn't worry me too much. Pokemon might be a big download. Mario Odyssey might be a big download. Um, Echoes of Wisdom hopefully is not. I will probably jump in and try a bunch of these and then move on and maybe then archive, I guess. Does that answer your question? Kind of.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're in the same place I am. You'll just kind of have to
Mm.
pick and choose on which
Yeah.
ones are worth it. I mean, I imagine there are some games I haven't played in a long time where if they did release the visual bumps, that may prompt me to go back and play it again or finish something that I didn't
Yeah.
finish. Provided I can, as I mentioned before, remember the battle system for the game and not be completely lost on where I left off.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, for example, I have that, and I have not even started it. Like, I downloaded it when it was on sale, and I just haven't even never played it. Like, I played the original on the Game Boy, but this new version, this whatever you is it do we call it a Switch version? Um,
Yes.
yeah, I've been meaning to, and I really just forgot it existed, to be honest. So, it comes up in conversation every now and then. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I really should play that." Uh, so maybe that one would be a good example because I just haven't even played it, and I have it. So, that
Yeah.
could be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and starting that from scratch would be easier, I think. That's another one of those
Yeah.
games where if you jump back in after a long time, it
Mhm.
takes a while to get your bearings on what you've already done and
Yeah,
what
exactly.
you left
Yes.
behind because you couldn't accomplish something yet. Yeah.
Yeah, like coming in halfway through a story, like when you're reading a book. If you
Yeah.
put a book down for a couple of months and come back, you're like, "What? What is going I need a recap. Where's my recap?" Yeah, so yeah, I can definitely see myself doing that. I think Pokemon, I have feel that way a little bit with Pokemon's Violet in terms of I don't remember where I was up to or what I was up to or what I was doing. So I will feel a bit lost when I jump into that, I think. because it's a pretty big game, that one. So, Mario 3D World, I mean, we finished that one, so that would just be starting from scratch and just going through the levels again and enjoying them again, I suppose. We did that as a family, I guess, myself and the 2 kids, and that's super fun. We played that a few times. We had the Wii U version and the Switch version, played them through both times. So that might just be fun to do, whether we play through completely again or just kind of sort of dabble, like you said, kind of pick and choose and dabble a little bit in between other things. But you don't wanna spend I mean, I love that this is here because this kinda helps build your library up a little bit, but I'm gonna wanna play the new games, really. So, yeah, it's a bit of a not catch-22 exactly, but it's yeah. I wonder what listeners think. Let us know if you'll be doing both, a bit of playing some new games and whether you'll be dabbling in some older ones or if you're just gonna leave the older ones alone and just stick with the new stuff. I think that's a really good question. Maybe I'll put a poll up for that. Yeah. Anything else on that thought?
I don't think so, except you know what I do want to say. I
Mm.
reviewed recently Atelier Yumia, the
Mhm.
latest entry in the Atelier series, and it had a lot of problems with performance on the Switch.
Right.
Um, but I like the game enough that when they release, I haven't purchased it yet, but I'm going to do the season pass so I can get all the additional content and
Mhm.
additional levels, which I believe is coming out in October. I hope when that's released in October, it comes with Switch 2 updates.
Mm.
To I My initial thought was that just upgrading to Switch 2 was going to solve a lot of the performance problems, but that's also a game that could use some additional features and performance bumps, visual bumps. Um,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I'll be curious to see which other companies outside of Nintendo start doing this, especially for these things where they're releasing additional content anyway. So are they going to bundle the upgrades in with it?
Exactly. And it brings up a good point that we kinda talked about before the show, which in terms of reviewing, because when we review a game, are we reviewing the Switch 1 version, the Switch 2 version, or both, and comparing them? I guess we have to make that pretty clear. Like, it's fine if it's just the Switch 1 version, and it's fine if it's just the Switch 2 version, but do you make a comparison? Can you make a comparison? Can you have a Switch 1 version and a Switch 2 version that you can look at side by side? Probably
Yeah.
not, right? Unless you don't override your original Switch settings, but then you'd need 2 codes as well, wouldn't you? You'd need to have it twice.
Well, or yeah, if you had two systems both under your account, you'd be able
Mhm.
to bounce back and forth, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's a
But
good point. Yeah.
even then, like, yeah, as we're reviewing, we'll have to point out we played this on a Switch 2. The rating is for Switch 2.
Mhm.
Because if I'm playing on a Switch 2, I'm not going to be able to comment how well the game plays on the Switch.
Mhm. Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
it's going to be weird for games that are available for both, um, especially if well, And then what do we do if we're a game that's not made for the Switch 2 specifically, but I'm
Mhm.
playing it on the Switch 2
Yeah,
because that's the
true.
system that I'm going to have.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be weird for a couple of years while we kind of have this overlap going on.
Yeah, I think so. So are you saying that I can play, say, New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe? I could play that enhanced version on my Switch 2 and also on my Switch 1, keep my old one? I thought I have to transfer it all over and that's it. The Switch 1 would be wiped. But you don't think that's the case?
Well, even if that is the case, you could do it with the virtual game cards,
Yeah,
right?
true. Mhm.
So if I think if it's viewed as the same system or the same account, then if it's still doing the thing where it's saving the games online, then if you launch with the other system, it should say you've got to save here. Like I don't know if they're going to split the Switch 2 saves versus the Switch saves,
Yeah.
or if it's going to be one save and then you could just kind of grab it on either system and it'll pull down the update if you bounce over to the other system for some reason.
Mm, yeah. I'm probably more confused now, but I can't wait to try it out and see see what that entails. Yeah, I think, like you said, it's going to be an interesting few years. Yes, very interesting. I guess if listeners have a thought or an opinion on reviews and how they might best be placed for our readers, let us know. I think, yeah, we'll just have to be clear. This is a Switch 2 review, it's a Switch 1 review. Or if we're doing a Switch 1 review, we're saying that we're playing it on Switch 2 as well. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. Interesting. We have a little bit of non-Switch 2 news. I suppose you'd call it Switch news then. In that we've kind of talked a little bit about Tears of the Kingdom just in passing, but it actually celebrated its second anniversary last week on the 12th of May, which I'd completely missed and forgotten about. Um, it doesn't feel like 2 years to me. I think it feels like longer. What do you think?
Yeah, I would have said longer, but that's also because I haven't played it in such a long time.
Mm, hmm.
Um, yeah, I think all of us played it pretty much nonstop for a month, 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I hit the wall and quit,
Yes.
and went back in later and kind of horsed around with it. And I did that was kind of like a Trevor pun for you because I was on Epona, just kind of circling the map. I wanted to go
Right.
all the way around the map and just hit every stable that I could.
Cool,
And
cool.
took
Yeah.
care of a couple things along the way. But this is a
Yeah.
game specifically that when they announced the Switch 2 and that they were going to update this, I thought I'm not touching this until that comes out because I'm
Mm,
really going to use this game to see how much better the games can be on the
yes.
system. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is one I'm going to dig back into quite heavily, I imagine, once the Switch 2 arrives.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that as well. I've had the same thought process. I haven't touched it this year at all because for that very reason, I just want to wait and see how it performs and all those extra little things that we'll get from it. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to it. My son as well is looking forward to jumping back in and playing it some more. So much to do in that game. And the other little Switch news is, I guess, an update to Nintendo Switch Online. There is a new Nintendo 64 game. Sorry, it's not a new Nintendo 64 game. There is a new addition to the Nintendo 64 collection on Nintendo Switch Online. Do I have to be careful with my words? I know people know what I mean, but I'm just like being specific. But it's Killer Instinct Gold, which is a fighting game from Rare Studios, the makers of, I guess, Donkey Kong Country, another Banjo Kazooie, and that sort of thing. I don't think I had played this before. I did jump in and have a little go at it. I don't know what the difference between Killer Instinct and Killer Instinct Gold is, whether that was a sequel. I don't know. Anyway, I think Killer Instinct might have been a Super Nintendo game, actually. So maybe this is the Nintendo 64 version. So yeah, I jumped in and had a quick play. I'm not particularly good at arcade fighting games. I did always think this one looked really nice. It had some really distinct characters. There's the skeleton dude, the like the kind of knight looking guy with the sorry, I don't remember any of their names. I think Spinal was the skeleton guy with this. He looked pretty cool. He looked like a pirate skeleton. Were you going to say something?
I can't help you out with any of this. I've never
Yeah.
played the game. I don't even know if I'd heard of it.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I definitely heard of it. I don't know, I think it might have been at arcades in the '90s,
Yeah,
potentially?
I'm seeing that, and I'm sure I saw the cabinet at one point. But
Yeah, yeah.
all these kind of games just sort of blended together for
Yeah,
me
yeah,
because I
yeah.
never played them, so I couldn't tell you the difference between this and Mortal Kombat. Is that
Yeah,
another one?
yes, yes.
Pit Fighter start this off. I'm going way back on that.
Oh, I don't know that one. I don't know. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I think they were the big 2 in the '90s. Killer Instinct, I think, tried to bring I guess, a fresh, approach. Well, not even an approach, it's still a fighting game, but it kinda had that rendered look. I guess it's more of the Mortal Kombat look than, say, the flatter Street Fighter 2 look, for example, that more because Street Fighter 2 was a bit more cartoony in a way. Mortal Kombat
Mhm.
was a bit more realistic. This was also that realism. Rare had this really good, I think, I can't remember what it was called on Super Nintendo, but the way it rendered, kind of like Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong really, he looked kind of 3D in his, even though he's a platformer, the games were platforming games. He looked kind of 3D, so the modeling was really neat. So I love that they came up with a whole new IP, all of these cool characters. um, I don't know how well it did, honestly. People played it, I suppose. They made a sequel for the Nintendo 64. As I said, I wasn't really ever very good at these types of games. And I guess most of my friends were into Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. So didn't get a whole lot of time with it. But yeah, I checked it out. It's neat. It's there. I'd love to know if listeners enjoy this game and how they think it fits into other fighting game kind of lists in terms of popularity or success. Um,
Yeah, tell me how it compares to Pit Fighter.
Yeah, yes, please. Please do. That name does sound familiar, but I cannot visualize it at all.
It
So
was before this. I just pulled it up. It was 1990. Pit Fighter came out, so I don't know if
oh.
that was one of the first of this type, or why it stuck in my head. I have no idea.
Oh, it looks a lot like Mortal Kombat though. Like the people look a bit more real than cartoony, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah,
There was even a Game Boy version of that. So that was on the Super Nintendo. Yeah, okay. Hmm, interesting. That's cool. We should rank them then. So we've got Pit Fighter, Street Fighter, uh, Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct. Any others that I've missed? How many of these are there? And I mean, I guess Street Fighter's still going strong. Mortal Kombat's still going. Is it strong? I don't know. It's still going though.
yeah.
Killer
Isn't Street Fighter getting a Switch 2 game?
It is, yes. Street Fighter
Yeah,
6 will come out on launch day, which is, I think it's only a year or two old in terms of other consoles, so it's not a super old one. And I love that it's coming to the Switch too. I think, yeah, just in terms of that third party support that I mentioned earlier, I think this is a really good example of a game or a series that's been around a long time, still very popular, and yeah, it's just nice that it's coming back to Nintendo because Street Fighter 2 was on the Super Nintendo, but we haven't seen a lot. We've seen all the collections and kind of those. I think maybe Street Fighter 3 might have been on one system at one time. All the Ultra Turbo, whatever else versions of Street Fighter 2, but none of these kind of more 3D, hardcore for want of a better word. But I guess sorry, just because before this is berate me, there are other fighting games like Virtua Fighter, I guess, right, and those kinds of things. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't want to miss them
oh, yeah.
out.
There
They
are many,
exist. They exist. Yes,
many, many, many. Yeah.
many, many indeed. But let's move on to games we're playing. For me, the game that I'm playing is Killer Instinct Gold, and that's literally it because I just have not had time this week. I dabbled in that, and it was fun. I died several times. I'm not very good, but like I said, I did like Spinal, the the skeletal dude. He's pretty cool. I think you'd like him, Kirk.
Oh yeah, I'm always. You put a skeleton in anything, and I'm there.
Yes, exactly. But let's see what you're playing this week. What's happening in
Well,
Kirk's world?
it's a game that I mentioned last week that I was just starting.
Mhm.
An action RPG called Yasha: Legends of the Demon Blade.
That's right, because we
Uh,
love the name of this, right? Noun or proper
yes,
noun,
yeah,
whatever it is, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I was wrong last week. I assumed that one of the main characters was actually Yasha, and that's not the case.
Oh, okay.
You have three characters you could choose from, and this was one of my issues with the game. I think there's a ninja lady named Shiger,
Mhm.
who she fights with a sword. There's a smaller demon-like animal, like part cat, part demon. I can't tell exactly what it is. Named Sarah. She
Right.
fights with daggers. She's got dual daggers,
Is she the one with the really
and
long ears kinda thing? Is that her?
yeah, or horn. They're like
Oh,
horns
horns,
coming up,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
up
Mhm.
high. And then we have Takatora, which is a big tiger dude.
Mhm.
I think I compared it to Tai Chi Panda last time.
Yeah.
He's the big guy, and he's interesting because he fights with a bow or his fists, like a combination you
Ah,
don't usually expect.
yeah.
But I guess if you're too close to use the bow and arrow, then you got to use something. So
Yeah.
he's using his fists.
Cool.
But my issue with it is that you can't just swap between these
Ah,
characters as you play.
mhm.
You pick one and then you play it with that character from the start.
Right,
If you
yes.
decide you don't like that character and want to switch to someone else, you have to go back to the start and then
Mm.
play from that character, um, which would be fine. It's a good way of prolonging the game, except that the combat is already kind of redundant.
Mhm.
And there are no differences in the battles at all, except for how you're approaching the fight itself. Enemies spawn in the same point, the levels are the same, the bosses are the same. The dialogue is a bit different. They're talking to different characters. So between
Mhm.
the combat sessions when you're in the villages, that's different, but it still just gets a little redundant after a while with the actual gameplay.
Right, okay. Did you try all 3?
Yes, because I wanted to see which one I liked the best, and ends up I was right the first time when I used Sheer. the ninja.
Okay,
I
yes.
guess I'm better with one sword than two daggers. I normally like archers quite a bit, but I prefer
Mhm.
them in my turn-based games, not in action games
Mm,
where
mhm.
I have to distance myself, you know.
Yeah, it does make it harder. And does he kinda auto aim, or do you have to be pretty specific with the aim? Like, is how's that work?
I'm trying to figure that out. For the most part, he's it's kind of auto aiming. It's not like a twin stick thing where you
Mhm.
have to move a cursor into a certain spot.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we'll go with that. Um,
Okay.
and
It's
honestly, he's not the one I use the most. That hence my confusion. I didn't get too
yeah.
far with him before I thought, nah, I'm sticking with what I
Yep.
got.
He looks kinda
No,
cool.
yeah, oh, it looks great. Yes, the my favorite part about the game were the visuals and the audio. It's set in Edo era Japan,
Mm.
and the music fits perfectly. It's almost calming amongst all the chaos. I believe I said in the review, so I
Nice.
greatly enjoyed that. And the animation is really smooth. Like it's the type of smoothness that I'm expecting with the Switch 2. I
Right.
don't know what the frame rates are. They didn't advertise it, but everything was just played really really well.
That's nice.
Uh,
Yeah, that's
and
neat.
the combat's fairly easy too. You have a weak attack, you have a strong attack, you have your dash, you have dash attack. Um, Most of which are going to get you through the majority of the battles until you reach the boss. There are like 3 sections for every level, and then it ends in a boss battle. And
Mm.
there you've got to learn to parry. Um, you do that. The good thing about that is you trigger that with the R button, so you don't have to. Your finger can always be ready to go because the enemies flash like this little curb of light, and you've got a split second to parry it. I mean, there's no time at all.
Right.
You what you can do, and I found this easier, was if you're up just against a boss or you're farther away from your other enemies, you can kind of load up the parry so that the moment that flashes, you just let go of the button, and then
Ah,
you can still do it. So I was a little more successful with that.
yeah, that makes sense. What was I gonna ask? Oh, you know what would make this, I think, a lot better is you mentioned there are 3 characters and that you can only play 1 and then you have to restart if you wanna play 1. It'd be cool if this is a one-player game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, wouldn't it be neat if you could play with 3 players or 2 players and co-op play? I think that would be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of games like this have that,
Mm.
the sort of isometric top-down,
Yeah,
three-quarter view, is that
yeah,
what they call it, of the battlefields? That might hurt the play. I was talking about how smooth it was, the frame
true.
rates. That
Mm.
could maybe hurt that a bit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there are, and believe like when I went up against the first boss, I was just doing no damage at all. I
Right.
kind of figured out his attacks and I was able to dodge well enough,
Mhm.
but I just wasn't getting anywhere. And that's when I learned I really need to parry. Also, it is a roguelike. So you're not expected to be able to hit a boss, beat it in advance. You've got to go. You die. You get reincarnated
Ah,
back at the
okay.
village.
Mhm.
You level up your weapons. You cook a little bit to give yourself some boosts. Work your way up to beating it, and then go on to the next level. Which
Mhm.
again plays into my main problem with it, which is the repetition, because you start back at the beginning, and again you're fighting the exact same monsters in the exact same spot
Mhm.
as you're proceeding. A lot of the roguelites will be or randomly generated.
Yeah.
So you're getting some variety in what you're doing, and you're not in this one. It's just doing the same thing over and over.
Right. And
So
when
I
you
meant,
yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, when you do perish in a boss fight, for example, you get sent back to the beginning. Is there an opportunity to change your character at that point?
No, because well,
Ah.
you don't go all the way back to the beginning. You go back to like to the beginning of the level.
Ah,
So
okay. Mhm.
yeah, to back to the previous village.
Right. Yes.
So if you, I mean, I suppose you could create different saves. I didn't even try that.
Mm.
So if you get bored with one, you can then go back. So I'm going to pick up this one, and wherever I left off, I'll do that one. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, roguelites are an interesting subgenre, I guess, or genre, I don't know what you call them.
yeah,
They work
yeah,
well sometimes, but yeah.
and I mentioned in the review, I appreciate them much more now than I did even 2
Yeah.
years ago.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's just got to be a little bit more variety if I'm going to be doing something over and over again, uh, to keep me going. I think the game is good enough, and my review will be up very very soon,
Mhm.
if not already. It's good enough to warrant playing through once. I don't think if you complete the game with one of the characters, there would be any incentive to go back and do it again as another one, because you're just
Mm.
playing through the exact same scenarios, just with different weapons.
Yeah, exactly. I do wonder if the Steam version of this had co-op at all, and maybe they had to ditch it on the Switch for whatever reason.
I don't
Just
know.
wondering. I don't know.
Let's keep talking. I'll try to pull that up too.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's a bit of a mixed bag. Oh, actually, it was released on Steam at the same time as Switch, so which is kind of cool that it's you know, what do you call it? a, a release that happens at the
But
same time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's neat.
simultaneous.
Yeah, simultaneous. Thank you for finding words that I can't find. Yeah, that seems pretty neat. It looks like in the video, I'm not seeing multiple players on the Steam version, at least.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't see it listed either.
Yeah, well, it definitely it looks lovely. So yeah, it's a shame it's got a few little flaws in there, but I definitely look forward to hearing or reading your final score when it's published on our website. So thank you, Kirk. I
I
don't,
do want to highlight also
yeah,
that if you are a fan of this type of game and you play them mainly for the action and you don't mind the repetition, it really is very well done.
cool.
If you're not a fan of this type of game, at least not that much, this isn't one to really dig into. It's not going to pull you over to the genre.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think we've both had that experience lately, like in the last, I guess, 12 months, where we've both not been super into this kind of game, but we've played a few that have really helped, I guess, sway us in the genre, in the subgenre of roguelike. So yeah, so you're saying this one is not the one that will convince people?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's awesome. Anything else you would like to say before we do close things off for the week?
Nope, except that, yeah, just a couple weeks away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so close now. I just can't believe it. I'm so excited. So bring it on. Switch 2. Here we come. Well, thank you so much, Kirk, for joining me this week. Thank you, listeners. Let us know your thoughts on all of the topics we've discussed. How excited are you from 1 to 10 on the Switch 2? And what you're playing as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we are on Blue Sky. So check us out over there. And of course, check out our website where you can read our news and reviews, purenintendo.com. And if you'd like to support us, we are on Patreon. So patreon.com/purenintendo. You can support us and get yourself a copy of our magazine that we're publishing and printing. Working on our next issue at the moment. So look forward to hearing more about that in the near future. But until next week, thank you and game on, everybody. Bye.